Good day, friends. I'm Professor Kennedy, and today we will be talking about the management of stress. In order to encompass the totality of stress, what are the different aspects that we will cover? Firstly, the definition. Secondly, what are the theories of stress? What causes stress? Of course, we are talking about individual stress, but what about organizations and companies? Do they have stress? How do we evaluate it? What are the effects of stress? And most importantly, how do we manage stress? Now, if you look at stress, there are different types of stress. There is good stress, where you have the right amount of activity, the right amount of things to do, and you're able to function optimally and productively. If you have too much, it's burnout stress. Too much of stress is a different type of stress. And then you have crises and natural calamities and major events that cause distress, and that is another form of stress, which is not good for you. And then most surprisingly, if you have nothing to do, if you have no occupation, if you don't have a job, you will have boredom. You will have too little stress, and the body will rust out mentally and physically. Stress is not new. It is new from the point of us discussing it much more since the last couple of decades. But it is not new. It has been there since time immemorial. It has been there from the beginning of mankind. And stress is an ancient response of the body to a threat, resulting in a neuromuscular and endocrinic reaction, which means stress is a threat that results in the reaction of the body to meet the threat. Now, this is known as the fight or flight response. You have a danger. Maybe you are being attacked by an animal if you were to go back in time, or you are being attacked by a warrior or a soldier or a thief. How does the body respond? Your heart rate increases. Your respiration increases. Your muscles are flowed in with blood and nutrients, and they become stronger and swifter. All the other organs of the body that are not required tend to slow down, such that the important organs, the muscles, the eyes, the ears, the brains, all of them are ready for action. Now, if this happens on occasion, it is excellent, because the body transforms itself to a much more powerful organism in order to overcome the danger and eradicate the threat. But if this remains for a long time, what would happen? Or even at that instant, you will see over here that the immune system gets suppressed. In case of battle and in case of wounds, the blood clotting increases. The blood flow to the muscles increase with additional energy. The brain becomes clearer. Now, these are excellent from a primitive aspect. They are excellent from a modern aspect also. But in primitive times, the simple needs of food and safety were met by a physical response utilizing the stress hormones or energy or excess blood circulation and the strengthening of muscles. But in modern days, when we come to this century, 5 or 10,000 years later, when we come to our current time, food and safety and home are all assured. But there are new demands, financial demands, family demands, work demands, social demands. And these cannot be met by a physical response. After all, a physical response doesn't necessarily earn you money. You need to go to work and you need to work on your systems. So there are much more complex demands. And stress remains within the body because these demands are repetitive and on a daily basis. Now, when the stress hormones remain in the body, it causes what is known as a psychosomatic effect, which means mental anxiety impacting the body's systems. And when you have repeated stress and when you have frequent stress, then the accumulation of stress and tension in the body and in the mind results in high blood pressure. The excess sugar circulating results in diabetes. The extra pressure and tension and toxins and adrenaline in the brain results in loss of memory. The lack of circulation of blood to the stomach results in ulcers and digestive problems. And the constant flow of blood to the muscles results in the bulging of the muscles and the tightening of the muscles, and that results in lactic acid deposits and pain in the muscles. This cumulative impact all comes from a thought, a stressor, which is a problem that needs to be solved. So we call it a psycho, which is mind, soma, body effect, meaning that stress not only affects the body, but also affects the mind. Now, there are several theories of stress. The general adaptation syndrome theory by Dr. Hans Selye, perhaps the father of stress management. According to him, stress came in 3 stages. One is the demand or the threat, and he referred to that as the alarm stage, and then the meeting of that demand, the finding of solutions to that demand, the resistance stage or the stress management stage, and then if it carried on for too long, you reach the exhaustion stage, where your immunity will drop, your heart rate will increase, your blood pressure will increase, and this was known as the exhaustion stage or the psychosomatic stage. Much later, Holmes-Rahe, the researchers, explained stress in a different way. If stress is caused by an event, such as a threat, then those events were quantified, and each events were given certain points depending upon the stress and tension that these events would cause. According to Holmes-Rahe, death, especially of a loved one, gave us the maximum stress of 100 units. Divorce, separation, 73, a jail sentence, 63, joblessness 47, retirement 45, financial problems 38. All problems, all events were quantified by a numeric and a cumulative number of more than 300 would result in full-blown psychosomatic stress, meaning stress that would cause the body breakdown, which could be hypertension or headaches, depending upon the individual structure of the human being. You had Anseli in 1936, and then you had Holmes Rahe in the 1960s, and now closer to India, I had the great privilege of listening in to Professor Pestonji in the Institute of Management, IIM at Ahmedabad. He was talking on stress, and I gathered from what he said that we have stress tolerance levels. Now, stress could come from work or from home or from your personality or from social factors, as long as you were able to bear the load or the stress tolerance level, it was okay. But in case the stress increased in any area, as in this instance, from work, you will notice that the load increases to the point where you no more have the ability to manage stress. So while optimal stress or sufficient stress gives you alertness and clarity, and you have a sense of challenge, too much of stress in any area or in all areas will result in a breakdown, which could result in lower productivity, absenteeism, and psychosomatic distress. So what then are the causes of stress? According to me, the causes of stress could be, and obviously, any problem causes stress, any crisis causes stress, a difficult routine with too little sleep and too much of work could cause stress, an ambitious, competitive personality would cause internal stress. If things are not going well at home, now that could cause stress. And of course, work. Work can always cause stress. Too much of work, inadequate salary, all of these can cause stress. So the general causes of stress, as I see it, are problems, an inappropriate routine, an inappropriate personality, conflict at home, and conflict at work. Let's look at each of these. When you talk in terms of a crisis or a problem, what are we talking about? It could be a fatal illness of the individual himself or from a family member, or a separation from the family. Many of our migrant workers, their families live in the village, but they work in the city for years and years. Major family problems, maybe the illness of an aged parent, job problems, inadequate salary perhaps, major health problems of hypertension or diabetes, major financial problems, loans that cannot be paid back, legal problems, social problems, and personal problems. And then you have, beyond all of these individual problems, you have natural calamities, war, and at this present moment, infection by COVID-19. Now, a crisis is a cause of stress. But what happens if you have insufficient rest and you do not sleep enough, and you have too much of work or maybe too little work. You are recently retired and you have no work at all. What happens if you do not have any time for the children in your family? You go to work early in the morning when the children are asleep. You come back late at night when the children have gone to bed. What happens if you have no time for rehabilitation, recreation, exercise? What happens if your entire annual plans cannot be worked out? And a routine that is confusing with insufficient rest and relaxation also causes stress. A problem causes stress, a poor routine causes stress, and so does your personality, especially a type A personality. A type A personality is a super achiever, a superstar. He is ambitious, he is impatient for success, he tends to work late hours, he's aggressive, he has no hobbies besides his work, and as a consequence, he's irritable, competitive, confrontive. He does several things at a time. He's hurried and time pressured, and this causes stress. Another area of stress could be, and it shouldn't be, but it could be your home. Your home is your castle. This is where you go to unwind at the end of a day's work. But if you are incompatible with your spouse, or you do not get along with the larger family of in-laws, if your house is too small and cramped and in a locality that causes you fear and distress, if you have financial and legal problems, if you live in a nuclear family and you do not have the larger support of other relatives, all of these can cause stress at home. And then of course, you have stress at work. Those of us who work in industrial complexes, steel making, or in the mines, noise, heat, cold, dust, long working hours, working at shifts at night, commuting for 2 or 3 hours each way every day, having deadlines which cannot be met. On the one hand, that would give you burnout. On the other hand, if you are inadequately utilized, your salary is insufficient to meet your needs, you have no support to get the work done, you are required to have after work engagements or work late into the night. All of these can also cause stress. Too much of work will give you burnout. Too little work will give you rust out. You need to find the right amount of balance. You could say that is for the industrial worker. What about the executive who sits very comfortably in an air-conditioned office? There is always the conflict of time spent at work as opposed to time spent at home. You're always looking for the promotion that does not come. You really don't know who you should please. Do you please your immediate boss? Do you please the workers or the team that is working for you? Or do you please the super boss? And all of these could have different interests. Maybe you have a job, but you're not given enough responsibility to complete that job. Maybe you have the type of job that is not important in the organization. if you're in a manufacturing job and you happen to be looking after other aspects like administration, which may not be well appreciated or may not be central to the role of the organization, it could cause you stress. Maybe your qualifications are overmatched or undermatched for your job. All of these can cause stress, even if you are sitting in an air-conditioned office. So who then does stress attack? If you go back to what I've said, stress will attack those individuals who have continued problems, poor support systems at home, individuals who have problems with no solutions, individuals who have unrealistic personalities, individuals who are intrinsically unhealthy and unable to take the stresses of day-to-day life, individuals who resort to smoking and alcohol for rest and relaxation and release. Stress will attack those individuals and cause the psychosomatic body ailments of hypertension, diabetes, and so on and so forth. As I mentioned in earlier presentations, I evaluate the lives of hundreds of thousands of executives and employees every year. 41% had type A stress, type A personality stress. 22% had problems with no solutions. 20% disliked their work. 16% had insufficient sleep and no exercise. 14% had problems at home. Consequently, above 80% had psychosomatic stress. So where do you, the individual listening to this presentation, where do you fit in the spectrum of stress? A quick check. You notice that there is a unit, 50, 100, and so on mentioned on one side of the slide, and on the other side we have the causes. Now consider yourself as the individual here. Are you, I'm talking about personality, are you ambitious, competitive, result-oriented? Are you a type A individual? Are you overly ambitious? Do you work late hours? If you do, give yourself 50 marks. Now, all the marks given here are negative marks, which means your objective is to score as low as possible. In this instance, a type A personality would get 50. Are you currently faced with a problem for which you have no solution? It could be a debilitating health problem of yourself or your family, or it could be the death of a loved one recently, or it could be a legal problem, a financial problem, any problem with no solution. If so, give yourself 100 marks. Are you unhappy at work? Maybe the salary is too little. Maybe the work is too hard. Whatever be the cause, if you do not love your job, 50 marks. What about home? Is everything good at home? Is your home your castle? Is it your refuge? Do you rest and relax there? Or are there problems at home? Is there conflict with the spouse or the larger family? If you are unhappy at home, 50 marks. The day is divided into 3 8-hour shifts. 8 hours work, 8 hours sleep, 8 hours recreation, of which 1 hour must be used for exercise. So I will simply ask you, do you sleep for 8 hours at least? And do you spend 1 hour exercising? If you do not, give yourself 50 marks. Now, total your marks. If you achieve a total of 100 marks in all these areas put together, if you achieve a total of 100 marks, you are a candidate for stress. And the headaches and irritability and the insomnia that you have is very likely stress related. There are many ways to manage stress. And some of the great professors in my country, India, have given us some examples. Sharma and Pestonji. Sharma was talking in terms of relaxation, Professor Sharma, relaxation methods, time management, and healthy lifestyle. Pestonji, Professor Pestonji, also suggested having realistic goals, organized work, appropriate time management, time with the family, rest, relaxation, exercise, and to have realistic goals. These are his methods of managing stress. And with my own experience of decades and of my learnings from my own teacher, Professor Savitha Dathe Menon, I have categorized stress as follows. 1, you need to have an appropriate personality. Solve problems. Do your exercise. Have sufficient rest, relaxation, and sleep. Plan your life and create appropriate stress defense systems. When we talk in terms of personality, the first stress management method I spoke about, what do we mean? Have realistic ambitions. Compartmentalize your work so that when you're in the office, you're not thinking of home. When you're at home, you're not thinking of office. Do not be rigid. Be compromising to reach solutions. Meet your colleagues halfway. Meet your co-workers halfway. Be relaxed. Do not be stressed and pressured. You do not have to do everything yourself. Be a team player. Delegate work. You don't have to compete with the next executive. Compete within yourself to do your best job. A type B person, as I'm suggesting over here, is patient and friendly, philosophical, is social, has many support systems, is an extrovert, and is dependable when it comes to solutions. The first step in the management of stress is to have an appropriate personality and perception. The second is problem solving. And how? Good planning. Have a list of activities that you would like to accomplish during the day. A list of activities that must be completed in the month or in the year. If there is a problem, confront the problem. Do not procrastinate. If there is a stressor, if it is a physical stressor of noise, or odor, or ventilation, repair the problem. If there are other problems which you cannot solve, immediately seek expert advice. A legal problem, consult a lawyer. A financial problem, consult your banker. An emotional problem, consult your family. Say no to work you cannot do or things you do not like. And when you see a problem, be positive. Turn all problems into opportunities. Also, be accepting. Solve the problems you can. And don't worry too much about the problems that you cannot solve. Stress is the release of adrenaline by the brain into the body that causes the heart to increase its beat and the blood to improve its circulation so that the muscles become strong. If that remains constantly in the body or happens too frequently, it results in the body being impacted by reduced immunity and lactic acid and pain and hypertension and diabetes. So you need to have physical activity constantly to be able to utilize the adrenaline and the stress hormones. And how do you do this? The American way, by going to the gym, is not a bad idea. By doing gentle exercises and being expressive is not a bad idea. By doing yoga the way the Indians do it, yoga and pranayama and breathing is an excellent idea. Remember, you can control your breathing, which controls your heart, which controls your stress. Exercise, games, and sports are a great way to utilize excess stress. And then you can do meditative techniques, or you can go on holidays and vacations, and even day-to-day activities like trekking, gardening, and so on. This is the physical management of stress. So if you were to go back, you're talking about managing stress through personality, managing stress through your routine, managing stress, yes, through your organization of routine and daily activities, managing stress in a physical way, and now we talk in terms of managing the mind by having sufficient sleep, by listening to music, by playing games, by having hobbies, by meditation, massage therapy, laughter therapy, prayer, faith, belief. If you believe in a greater force that will help you, it will give you confidence. Prayer is a great stress reducer. When you are able to calm the mind, you're able to neutralize with good toxins the ill effect of stress, which is the bad toxins. Sleep rehabilitates and rejuvenates the entire body. And the endorphins released during sleep neutralize the toxins released during stress. So when you relax, or when you sleep, or when you meditate, or do yoga, your heart rate reduces, your respiration slows down, your brain wave slows down, your blood pressure drops, your muscles become relaxed. and the body releases endorphins, the natural healing hormones that reduce stress. Now that is stress for the individual. How do you reduce stress in organizations? By having clear, impartial rules, no ambiguity, clear job descriptions, enough time for relaxation during the day, for good work done, recognition, reward, and promotion, fair payment to meet living costs, frequent communication, constant consultation, and most importantly, an annual health and stress audit. This will help to reduce stress in organizations. So then, what are the stress defense methods? Stress defense methods. A stable home with family and friends. These are the 10 commandments. And as I mentioned, these were put together by my teacher in stress, Professor Sarkadath Menon. Stress Defense Methods, SDM. The 10 commandments. 1, stable home, family and friends. 2, financial security. 3, a good job that you like. 4, realistic goals. 5, the ability to solve problems. 6, a stress-free personality. 7, a sense of humor. 8, good health and appropriate nutrition. 9, sufficient sleep, rest, and meditation. And finally, 10, my own injection into the stress defense method. Sufficient daily exercise to utilize the stress hormone. So these are the stress defense measures. And now we are coming close to wrapping up our talk on stress. So how can you remain efficient in spite of stress? You don't want too little stress, where you would be depressed and lethargic. You don't want too much of stress, where you would be fatigued and exhausted. You want right on top, the right amount of stress, which will give you the highest levels of productivity, clarity, energy, achievement, and success. So what then are the goals of stress management? Not too little stress. Not too much of stress, which will result in burnout. Not too little stress, which will result in boredom. But the right amount of stress, good stress, optimum stress, which will enable you to plan for success. What then are the benefits of stress management? 1, relief from psychosomatic and physical ailments. If you're able to manage stress, which is inevitable in modern life, if you're able to manage it, you will avoid the psychosomatic ailments. And what are those psychosomatic ailments? Blood pressure, diabetes, hypercholesterol, headaches, insomnia, arthritis, spondylosis. If you're able to manage stress, you will reduce your medical ailments. That is one benefit. And the second benefit, if you're able to manage stress through all the great suggestions that we have made during this presentation, so by having your own stress defense mechanism, by managing your stress physically, by managing your stress mentally, by managing your routine, by solving problems, by having an appropriate personality, if you're able to put all this together, it will result in higher productivity as an executive and greater happiness as an individual. Friends, as always, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk with you. Thank you so much.